Hi there, and a very warm welcome to this week's Quickish tip. At least I think it's a Quickish tip. So what we are going to do today, it's a thirst for this channel, and we're going to actually go into modeling this time, into SDS modeling to be more precise. So what we're going to do today is model a ketchup bottle. That rhymes. And we're going to see what I do to model the bottle right and correctly, or at least to my workflow and to my standards. So let's jump right in and let's have some fun with modeling. Let's have a look what we're going to do today. So we will be modeling this nice bottle here in Subdivision Surface. If you're not familiar with Subdivision Surface, I will gloss over that a little bit in the next chapter. But overall, this is what we're going to do. So let's get started, since this is probably a longer tutorial. For those of you who pay attention to my feeds on Instagram or Twitter, those know that I've been dabbling with Blender lately. But the cool thing is that SDS modeling is very universal. So you can do it in 3D Studio Max, Maya, Cinema 4D or Blender and get the more or less same results out of it. So this is a very universal topic, and while I have planned to make some Blender tutorials in the future, I think I'm not there yet and I need to dabble around a little bit more. Let's go and have some look at SDS modeling, and I guess a lot of you already know what it is, so this is for those few of you who don't. And those of you who do, you can skip to the next chapter mark. As Subdivision Surface is a very technical topic and I could spend a whole video series talking about it, I will gloss over a lot of things next. So first of all, let's create a cube and stick it into a SDS object. Now let's go back with the subdivisions by 1, and you can see two things. One polygon becomes 4 polygons, and the cube is now a sphere-like shape. And if we up the count here, the polygons always quadruple. So we go from 1 to 4 and then from 4 to 16. And you can already imagine where this is leading. If you're not careful, you end up with a scene full of polygons. So the actual interesting thing that the SDS algorithm supplies is the smoothing. When I go to the cube here and actually convert it into a polygon and then select all the edges and bevel them, and we get a closer look into the algorithms later, you can see that we now have shifted the shape of the cube from a sphere back to a cube, but we get rounded edges due to the smoothing of the SDS object. So the original cube looks like this, and due to the fact that two edges are close to each other, we get this creased edge effect here. And basically, in reality, everything has a round edge, and since the SDS object or the SDS modifier is so good with it, we model whole objects with it and let the SDS algorithm take care of the smoothing, and therefore we can get varied shapes that are really realistic and always have a rounded corner. Subdivision Surface can have multiple advantages and disadvantages. Let's go with the advantages first. So basically the base mesh is very low res, so if I turn on the mesh again, you can see it's lower res than the smooth result, and this lets you create, for example, UVs very easily. Also, the dynamic of subdividing the object to different levels can be used to have lower resolution for further away objects and higher resolution for objects that are closer to camera. So if I go very close, you might see edges somewhere, and we can mitigate that by increasing the resolution, while having the overall shape of the object stay the same. So if you're not only dealing with cubes, but with other more complex objects, one of the disadvantages of SDS is that the mesh structure can be rather complicated, and it's hard to learn to model cleanly and efficiently. I always think of SDS as something that can be learned by doing, which actually is the opposite of what I'm doing right now, but I hope to push you in the right direction with the following tutorial. So let's not wait any longer and start right in. Alright, we are starting from scratch here, so welcome to our blank canvas in which we are going to model the bottle. Let's make some settings first before we start. So first of all, what's dear to my heart is go to scale and set this from centimeters to millimeters, because this gives us more precisions in the sliders. So usually I consider smaller objects all objects that can fit on a tabletop. Bottles, glasses, and electronic products mostly, also pens. So basically what I'm modeling usually. What I want to do next is bring in a background image. So let's hit F4 to go in the XY axis camera and bring in our background image. To do this, you can press Shift V and this will bring up the view options. You can also go to mode and view settings here and then go to back. And this is giving us the input for our background image. So what I'm going to do is drag in my image into here. Here we go. And this brings up our ketchup bottle here. Because it's distracting to have a bright white background, I also enabled an alpha in the image. So what you can do in alpha mode, go to normal and then you just see the bottle, which is much more convenient. Alright, now that we've brought in the image here, let's scale it to a real-world size. This is another topic that's very dear to my heart. I always model to scale. This has mostly two benefits. One of those is if I interchange objects between scenes, they always stay the same size and I don't have to worry about scaling them. And basically the same goes for materials. If I exchange materials on objects, especially transparent materials with absorption or scattering, basically only need minimal tweaking. Alright, so let's do this for our scene here by bringing in a cylinder and setting it to a size of a bottle. So how do I know the size of a bottle? Basically I have a caliper lying around all the time here next to my desk where I can measure stuff all the time. So I have a bottle here, not such a historic ketchup bottle, but just a normal bottle, and I measured it to be 7 centimeters in diameter. Since this is a radius setting here in the cylinder, what we need to do is halve it. So we go 70 because we are millimeters, not centimeters, and then we halve it by 2, and this gives us the diameter of the bottle. So now we have to go back to Shift V to go back to our background and then basically scale down our bottle to fit those dimensions of the cylinder. Something like this. Also what we want to do is put it on the Z axis here so it stands on the world grid. So we need to move it up on the Y axis, something like this. Now there's perspective to this original bottle here, but we will be sort of working around that in the later part. Alright, let's fine-tune this a little bit by going to the offset and move the bottle a little bit to the right. So go offset here. And if the steps are too big, you can hold down Alt to get into smaller increments here. Something like that. And let's scale it up a little bit too. So something like that. I would call this okay for now. Okay, let's talk about the model process first. So why did I choose this bottle? So if it was round, it would be rather simple. We just could use a spline and a lathe knobs to reshape the bottle and then rotate around the center and have the shape done. But this has facets here, and those are the more difficult part on the bottle. Now, to be fair, there's an even more difficult part here with the thread, but we are ignoring that for now. If you're interested, we can do that in a later tutorial maybe. So for now, we have those facets. So basically what we want to do is count them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 3 on the back. This is 8 facets. So let's go to our cylinder here and set the rotational segments to 8 as well. Here we go. Let's go to perspective view to see those facets. Yes, we have them. Let's go to top view and go to display wireframe. And you can see that the pointy ends of those facets point in the axis direction, but we actually want to have the faces point in the axis direction. So what we need to do is rotate our cube here a little bit. So let's go to coordinates and rotate it So basically we want it to be rotated like this. So we have this umbrella logo here, but we want to do it mathematically sound. So what we need to do is 360 divided by 8. This gives us 45 degrees and nothing much has changed here, but we have a 45 degree here. So what we need to do next is divide that by 2. And then this is 22.5 and it gives us the correct alignment of our faces. Here we go. What we can do now is get our cylinder object converted into a polygon so we can model on that. But before we do that, let's go back into our bottle view here. And actually, let's go to display and wireframe. And you can see this cylinder here has segments that we don't need. So let's go to the cylinder and set the height segments to 1. Then convert it by hitting C. And then what we want to do is grab the rectangle selection tool, select the bottom here and move it up to 0 so it sits flush on the world scene. What you can see now, if I go back to the top view for example, is that our axis is still turned and we want to have a straight axis so we can model it a little bit better. So what we need to do is straighten out the axis. So what I need to do is go into object mode, then into axis mode, and then go down here and set this here to 0. And now if we look at it from the top, then our axis is back to normal. Now what this has done, if we go back here, is made our bottle or diameter a little bit smaller. It's hard to see, but you can see that it is a bit of a gap here between the edge of the bottle and our actual image. Also, you can see down here in the coordinates, this was formerly 70 because the peaks were touching the axis and now we have flush faces and this makes it a little bit less in diameter. So to compensate for that, what we want to do is actually go back into modeling mode, then turn off the axis and then select everything and get back into 70 by 70 here. Now if we go back into our bottle view, you can see now we are back to the original size. Okay, so let's actually start modeling and I will start modeling this bow structure here. So let's get into perspective view here real quick. So for this bow structure, I want to model that on one segment only because it's more convenient. Now what I want to do is go into brush select mode and deselect the segment and the bottom part here and then delete all the other ones. We need some more subdivisions to get the bow going and we actually don't need too much subdivisions. So we can do that with the loop cut tool, so KL, and then have 2 cuts here. We could also have 3 cuts, but I'm worried that this will make too many polygons in the end product because we have to rotate that around for every segment. So I'm a bit conservative here and go with 2 cuts. Now let's go back to 1 and 2 so they are spread evenly. Let's go back into our bottle view and then put them to their right place. So let's go into point mode and then again rectangle selection. Go and make them a bit larger. You can hold down Shift and then increment your steps. So I always end up with round numbers, which I really very much like. Something like this is okay for now. What I want to do next is make sure that with our SDS object here, so the smoothing applied, the bow is looking round as it is in the preview here. So let's do this by going to the cylinder, activate it and hold down Alt while clicking on the subdivision surface to apply a subdivision surface object. If we go back to perspective view, you can see everything is smoothed out now. A little bit too far actually, so we just want to have the top smoothed and not down there. So we have to introduce a supporting edge. So let's go in here and we can turn on and off the SDS object by hitting Q. Here we go, let's turn it off. Then actually what we want to do is rename that real quick. Here we go, and then introduce a supporting edge by hitting KK. and then just cutting across the lower part here. You can hold down Shift to make the edit a straight line. Here we go. Hit Escape to confirm, and then we can go Q to get our SDS object enabled again. What we can see here right now is that the bow that should go evenly across is pinching here in the middle. So what I want to do is go to the rectangle selection and select our former cut points here and move them out a little bit. So we can use the scale tool and scale along X until we are satisfied with the way the bow curves. Now I'm going to do that a little bit more precise by going down here and, for example, type in 16. Here we go. As I said, I like precise numbers. If I toggle on and off the SDS, this might look a little bit strange, but it's going to be fine in the end. What I want to do next is model the top part of the bottle here. So we need to get in our segments again. So go to Perspective View, turn off SDS, and we can see we only have one segment still. There's a neat little trick, so activate the bottle here, and while holding Alt, let's go to the array, and then set it to 0. And you can see now we have all these segments back again. So we need to convert that into one single poly, so right click here and go to Convert Object and Delete, and now we have everything in one object. If we turn on our SDS again, we can see those points are not connected yet. So what we need to do is either select all of the points or none of them, right click and then optimize. And if you have a very clean model, let's do this again, you can see now they are connected into one object. Small interlude here, and I have to say I'm a bit nervous as this is the first time I have something along the line as a sponsor. When I started my channel, I swore to myself to only include promotion if it's really useful for the community. And I think this is one of the cases. When MographPlus reached out to me to give me the affiliate link, I said yes because I actually took courses of him before. And one of those is the Redshift course that brought me up to speed with Redshift when I lagged behind a little bit. So if it's the same for you for Octane, and you want to have an A to C experience, then the ultimate introduction to Octane for Cinema 4D might be the right thing for you. The affiliate link is down in the description below. To start out modeling the top part, I want to go into Edge mode, then hit Loop Select by going UL, and then loop select the top portion here, then go into the Move tool, hit Ctrl and move it up, and this will extrude the top part of the object. You can also hit down Shift to make the extrusion incremental. This is not as important now. So what we want to do is flatten that down. So let's go to our numbers here and go to 0. And then we will also need to make that a round. So let's right click and then go to Fit Circle here and then go to Apply, and this will make it circular. So we have a nice circular shape that we can work with right now. Next, let's fit that into the bottle shape by going to the bottle view, and let's mix and match here again. So 140, then go to the scale tool, scale it down so it fits roughly here the bottle. Here we go. Then again with Control, move that out to extrude. You can hold down Shift again to snap and then scale it down again and so on. So I will speed that up next. What I want to do for a later portion of this video is split up the polygons here on the upper part of the bottle. So let's go to Poly mode, Selection mode, and select all of those. And then go right click and then split. Here we go. And this makes an extra object with those polygons selected. Now you need to know that the original polygons are still in place, so we just duplicate it and split them out. And this is exactly what we want. So if we go to our split polygons here, we want to roughly match the shape of our bottle as if it was round, until here, for example. So once more, let's extrude those here to maybe there. Here we go. Something like that should be fine. Alright, let's move on with our bottle again. So let's do this and call that bottle once more. Here we go. Alright, so we are done with the top part of our bottle for now. So let's care about the bottom part. If we go to perspective mode, you can see that the facets here reaching down to the ground, while in our bottle here there's a transition into a round piece again. So let's do this by going to the bottle, poly mode, and then select all the polys on the bottom, move them up 10 units here, and then move them down by holding Ctrl and Shift to increment and extrude, for example 4 units, and then down to the bottom again. So we have those incision cuts here. We could have done that with a loop knife too, but this is the way I do it. Now what we want to do is go to Edge mode again, UL to loop select both of those, and then again go to circle, fit circle, make that happen. And now we have a circular bottom part here. Now we're ready for our first supporting edges. So we said in the beginning that we need supporting edges for making our corners sharper, and this is around the facets obviously. So what we need to do is select the corners of our facets. So UL, loop select again, the upper part and the low part here. And then actually the funk break selection will be nice here. So UN, make sure the angle is the right angle, and then shift drag across here. And you can select all the edges here, and shift makes them additive to the already existing selection. Once we selected all of them, let's hit MS, which is the command for our bevel tool. And let's just bevel here, and you can see those edges are very large. So let's make them smaller, 2 for example, or maybe even 1.5. This is all right. And you can see there's something funky going on, and this is basically a bug in Cinema 4D's bevel code. So it should look like this, but on the other edge it looks like this on every other object here. So what we need to do actually is go back and separate out one of those instances here again, and then fix that and then array them around. So let's do this next. As this is not the first time I'm modeling this, there's also down here something that needs to be fixed. So we want to spread out those edges evenly. So we need to delete all the bottom part once more. So let's go to poly mode and select the polys and delete them. Here we go. Then also go into edge mode again, perspective, UL. So select those here, and then again go to fit circle. Top view, then what we want to do is get the fit circle to fit in with our largest edge here. So let's actually scale this up until it roughly fits somewhere like this, and we are 75.5 here. So let's get this in. All right, so let's go to perspective again. This is what we want, and we want to get this edge and move it down to the bottom once more. Alright, this is done now. Let's actually select our segment next. When having multiple choices to select something, it's always good to select something at an axis. So what I mean is the axis is this way, so we are selecting this. So my orientation in the scene is always down the Z axis, so I can get always the same selection. Now what we want to do is go into poly mode, loop select the strip down here, and then extend the selection by hitting UY twice. Then deselect the overshot selections here, as well as both of the polys on both sides. Here we go. So what we can do now is invert our selection by hitting UI and then delete everything else. So let's fix this point by going into point mode, and this is why we selected on an axis. So this point here is basically a mirror of this point, or it should be. So we can mirror over the coordinates. And this wouldn't be possible if we had selected any arbitrary angle. So let's go with the X and Y coordinates here. And you can see now those points are mirrored. What I also want to do is move down those points so they are parallel here roughly. Of course, they intersect with our initial line here, so what we can do is double click this in the Move Tool mode and then hit MN to dissolve it. Last but not least, what I want to do here is select this line here and scale it a little bit bigger so those lines are in parallel as well. And now with all of that done, we can go back into object mode and then hit the array with Alt, go to value 0 here again, and then go right click, connect and delete. Go into object mode one more time and then select nothing or all and then go to optimize. And when we hit the SDS object now, you can see this bottle is taking shape already. Very nice. This might be a very good time to acknowledge that modeling has a lot to do with going back and forth. So when we have this, you can see now we have some artifacts in our model here. Also, our bows that should be round are not round anymore. And this is because we introduced some supporting edges here, and if we turn off the SDS, you can see those edges are actually too far apart now. They need to come closer together. So what we can do is go around the model and then just select all of those edges and scale them in, for example, by 80%. But this is very tedious and you need to do that 8 times. Here we go. But for me, I like to take this moment to introduce another tool that came to mind that makes it a bit more easy. But to do that, we need to get our segment back. So let me do that in the background real quick. So we have our segment now with the 80% gap here. And what we can do is go through the array once more. But we also can use a new tool that came in Cinema 4D R2024 or something like that. So this is the Symmetry tool. So if I get the Symmetry tool, make this a child. Of course, this is acting on an axis right now, but there's more options. So we can use radial symmetry, go for the slide count, and we have 8 slices. And then go for the offset in the rotation and hit the 22.5 that we established in the beginning. And now we have a radially symmetrized object here. There are 2 things I want to do. First of all, the show planes I want to turn off. And now you can see there's cuts all over again. Also, if I turn on the SDS, you can see every one of those pieces is singular. So to mitigate that, what I can do is go and add a connect object, and this will connect all the objects together. So now we can go in here on one of those instances and then tinker around with one and then have the look what is the overall effect on the object. So if I scale this down and up, you can exactly see how good this looks. So I think 85% or 90% is just fine. And you can also see that our artifacts have therefore gone away mostly. I would say this is a very satisfactory result. So let's convert our polygons actually to be whole again. So let's select our connect and hit C. And then for the last time, call this bottle. At least I hope for the last time. Alright, let's do some finishing touches here. Those include managing to get this a bit cleaned up and then also get the inside of the bottle going. Because with bottles or glasses, in CG, at least if you want to be realistic, you need to have a thickness to the glass part. Alright, so let's care about the bottom, but before we do that, it's always a good procedure to deselect everything and go to optimize, so you are making sure that you have a good mesh. So what I want to do here is get rid of this edge, so let's go outside of the SDS by hitting Q. and then selecting all of this. You can do that by hitting the Move tool and double clicking. This is also a function that selects a loop. And you can see there's some strange errors here that come from imprecise modeling. So we need to take care of that by having all of those selected. All right. So then hit MN to dissolve that. And what we need to do now is move that edge to the top a little bit. So somewhere like here is good, I think. And then go and make a supporting edge here in the middle. So KL, you can hit Shift to snap to portions. So you hit the 50% mark right away. All right. So next, what I see here is that some of those distances are not correct. So we need to run our Fit Circle tool one more time. Here we go. Now the distances are correct. And last but not least, for this section, we need to bring in some supporting edges from the top and the bottom. Now you can go to MO and then while hitting Control, duplicate this edge and then type in the exact movement. But what we also can do here is go and ring select or loop select our polygons and then inset them. So let's inset them by lower 1.5 here. So we have made loop cuts for both of these edges at once. Here we go. Alrighty, almost there with the outer part of our bottle. Let's actually go and fill that bottom part in. So what we can do here is go and loop select our lines here again. Then what we can do is go to our scale tool, holding down Control to extrude that inward, and also Shift to increment. I'm going to do that a couple of times. So we get some structure here because I want to make the foot of the bottle slightly concave. And then what we can do is actually fill in the rest here. So this is MD. And then we can fill that with the basic fill tool. But this gives us an n-gon, and n-gons are never good in modeling. So we can use the new patch tool, and this will give us a patch. Now we have a slight problem, so we can orient the patch nicely, but since we are facing the face to an axis and not the edge, this will always be slightly crooked. And this is something we need to live with. Let's actually make the bottom of our bottle concave. To do that, let's actually go to the point selection and select our middle point. What we need to do here is go to the Move tool and get a help from a soft selection. What is a soft selection? Basically, it's a weight where your selection is the strongest and then it falls off to the radius. So if we move our points, those move based on the radius selection and the weight. And our selection right now is very big, so we need to make it smaller. If you remember correctly, the radius here was roughly 35, so we need to go to under that. So for example, 30 should do quite fine. If we now go to the side view and move our point, you can see that we are moving the points independently and our selection is the strongest. Now what we need to do is get into another fall-off mode. And the best fall-off mode I noticed is circle. So now if I move that up, that selection is rounded as we would find it in a bottle. Alright, finishing touches here. We just need some more supporting edges. So let's go back to perspective and let's actually go to edge mode and get rid of the soft selection. Select those edges and then again MS and 1.5 should be fine. Let's apply that. Also make sure this is turned to solid. Here we go. So we have our greased edges here. Now this, if you looked closely, this is now two edges at one place. So to mitigate that, again, deselect everything, optimize, and that should do the trick. And now if I enable the SDS object again, you should have a quite nice bottom of our bottle. Here we go. Now I just saw that there's something strange here, and if you go to last week's video about the normals, this has something to do with that. So what we need to do here is go to our bottle actually, go to edges, select all edges here, and then what we can do is go right click and unbreak Phong shading, because this is basically a broken Phong shading edge. So if I deselect everything, now it's fine. You can see a small shading error here, and this is because our bottle has a very huge gap between the bottom and the top where there's no supporting edges around. So what I usually do is cut that in a little bit smaller sections here. Not too many though. Let's actually make this a different way again. So let's loop select this upper edge, MO, and then again control drag that down 5. Also select the lower edge here and drag this up -5 in this point. And so we have like some supporting edges. So if I turn on the SDS again and deselect everything, you can see now this is looking very clean. Let's make this bottle whole by giving it a thickness. And by actually giving it a thickness, you make it a lot more realistic, because by doing so, you have the same interactions with light rays as real-world bottles have. One way of giving it thickness would be an inner poly extrude, but this has some disadvantages that I'm going to show you next. Let's go to poly mode, select the bottle, and actually turn off the SDS so we can get a better view on the base geometry. Make sure that all the polygons are deselected, or all of them are selected, and then hit D for the extrude tool. Let's just hit apply and see what happens. Now all the polygons are moved outside, but this is not what we want, since it destroys the shape of our bottle that we so carefully curated. So instead of a positive number, what we actually want to do is go with a negative number and move the edge of the bottle inward. So let's go with -3 for now. And you can see now we move the polygons inward, but the original bottle is missing. We can get this back by create caps, but to actually bring home my point, I will turn this off and show you what happens when we do that and move the edges around. So the edges are moved by the normals, and we have this normals tutorial last week, so you know what they are. And let's actually do that in slow motion. So if I move the edges in slowly, you can see at the points where the normals are too different from each other, we get intersections like this. And this would not make for a good model. So we need to find another way to give thickness to our bottle. Let's actually undo that right now here. So here we go. And then what we actually want to do is duplicate the bottle. And it's really as easy as that, because what we are now going to do is just scale inward our bottle. So let's go to the scale mode here and then hit Ctrl A to select all of the polygons. And what I actually want to do is just scale in the polygons on the X and Z axis and not the Y. So I grab this handle here and move them in about 85% or so. And if we go to the side view, you can see now we have some thickness to the bottle, but those parts that are critical are not overlapping and making some stupid stuff. So since we have different radii, the thickness of the bottle is also varying. So it's rather thick at the bottom and more thin at the top. But actually this is something I like, so I will leave it in there. You can fiddle around with it in your own spare time, so you can get the exact result you're after. What I actually want to do here though is to make the foot a bit different in the inside than the outside. So let's actually go and turn off the outside here. And then what we want to do is go into perspective view and delete most of the foot part or the outer foot part here. So what I actually going to do is a loop selection here, a loop selection here, and then we can UF, and this is fill. and we can fill everything in between and then delete it. Also, we can fill that one here and then go into the side view again and then move it up so it lines up roughly with the edge that we want. Here we go. Now, I'm not sure if I want to keep this edge here. Maybe I just want to move it in. So let's actually go into line mode and then double click it and then scale it in so it moves around here. And then also select the inner part. And then what we're going to do is connect those. And we are going to do that by hitting MP and then hold down Shift while moving from one edge to the other. This will create a bridge between all of the edges. Let's turn on our outer bottle again so we can see what we've done in the side view again. And yes, this is about what I wanted. Maybe the glass part is a little bit thick down here. So maybe what we can do is select all of the inner parts of the glass here and move it down just a little bit. Something like that. Now, the last gripe I have is with the rounding, which is the same. So this part is thinner than this one. Maybe it's something that also happens in real world bottles, but I think the thickest part is always the foot and not the middle of the bottle. So what I'm actually going to do here is go into perspective one more time, turn off the outer bottle. Then here I'm using the fill tool again. So, it's already selected, so we don't need to use the fill tool. Actually, what I had in mind was selecting this and then fill in the rest of it. But since everything is still selected, let's go into the side view here and let's scale that down a little bit. So let's go to the scale tool and scale it down. Now what's happening is that the inner polygons here are moved upwards, and this is not something we want. So when we click on the scale tool here, what we have is the transformation axis. So when we move the Y down, then the transformation axis is here exactly and not in the middle of the object. So when I now do that, we can move our rounding based on the level of the whole object here. So I want to do that, but I want to have a reference from the original here, so I don't do anything stupid. And I think something like that might be okay. All right. So last thing to do is to connect both of the bottles up on the top, and then we are basically done for today. So let's do this next. All right, finishing touches time. So let's do the same thing that we just did on the bottom and bridge those edges. So UL, select both of them, then MP to select the Stitch and Sew tool. Actually, if you don't hold any modifier key, the one edge would move to the other. By holding Shift, you create a new edge. Since bottles have a round opening, let's actually go with a bevel here. So MS again. And then actually we want to go with a chamfer and add in some more edges. So something like that. Now what we also want to do is get some supporting edges down here. We are going to do that with the KL, so the loop cut. Here we go on both sides. So let's UL one more time and then select both of them, set it to the same height, and then go with the nice value here. You might have noticed that the upper edge here is sharing the position between two edges again. So if I move one of them, you can see that. And we want to optimize that again. So let's go and deselect everything, right click, and then optimize, or UO on the keyboard. Here we go. In the last step of the top of the bottle, what I want to do is UL one more time and select all of those edges. And then go to the Edge Slide tool, MO. Of course, that lets us slide our edges, but this is not what I want to do. So actually, when we hit Shift and slide, we can slide along the normal of the object. So we want to make this a bit bigger, as it's so often the case with bottles. So 0.5 might be a nice value here. Last but not least, what I want to do is UL one more time and then bevel those edges because they now have gotten an angle here. So let's do this and then MS one more time, this time solid, and I think a value of 1 might be okay. Here we go. As I said before, we are not going to take care about the thread today. If you want to know how to model threads in bottles, sound off in the comments and let me know. What we are going to do though is this small hump here before the thread. So let's do this by going to UL one more time, select the outer edge here, and then actually move it up by MO, and then hit Ctrl to duplicate it and move it about 8 units up. Then go into perspective view, and this gives us something nice to model off of. Go into polygon mode, UL, select the polygon ring here, I to inset, let's inset 1 millimeter, and then actually hit MS again, which is the bevel, but in polygon mode this also gives us the way the polygons move. So we don't want to extrude 10, but maybe 3 or 4, or maybe 2 is fine. Also what we want to do is get the offset of the bevel a little bit further, so 2 maybe. Alright, this is looking nice. So let's go into our view here and let's see if that's looking good. Actually, we want to move up everything a little bit. So let's go to UL one more time and into edge mode. And we want to actually select those edges here and move them up. So let's go to the move tool, and when I increment, the increments are too large. So actually we can mitigate that by going to Shift M, which brings up the snapping menu. And in the quantize tab, you can actually set the increments of the move. So if we set that to 0.25, for example, that then makes the increments smaller and adhere more to what we want. So here we go. Let's select those both again, go back to the move tool and move them up like this. So we followed the shape roughly that the bottle has at this part. Here we go. Let's go back into perspective mode. And as a last thing, what we need to do is turn on the SDS and marvel at our creation. Alright, this is the last chapter and this has something to do with materials. Now I told you thickness would solve all problems, and this bottle is actually not looking that healthy. So for example, the top is looking like it was made of metal and the bottom is looking as if it was solid. And this is not the case here. Nothing is inside the bottle. So when we actually go to the bottle here and to polygon mode, and then select all polygons, you can see we get different colored polygons. And actually this is Cinema 4D telling you that some of the polygons are inverted. Now usually orange is a good thing, blue is a bad thing, so you have to keep track of the orientation of your polygons. And this is actually the same what we talked about last week. So with the blue polygons, the normals are actually sticking inward. So if I go to the options here and set the polygon normals, you can see the orange ones are sticking out, the blue ones are sticking in. And we need to have that all sticking out. So actually this is a very simple fix. So right click and then go to Align Normals. And this will count the normals and set them to its probable right direction. Now, sometimes it misses the point and reverts it to the wrong direction, and this will then look like this. And the only thing you need to do then is to reverse the normals. And you can see in the viewport now, our bottle is looking much better and actually as intended. And this is also the scene you can download via Patreon if you are subscribed to my Patreon, no matter what tier you're in. you can have access to all of my tutorial scenes, including this one. So if you don't want to model the bottle, you can actually subscribe and get it this way. Very easy. Speaking of my Patreons, as always, I want to thank those who make it possible for me to make those videos and support me over there. Such as my €50 tier subscribers, Gilles Augustinen and Leon Studio TV. Thank you so very much. Also, a huge thanks for my €15 tier subscribers, Abraham Torna, AB Studio, Alessio De Vecchi, Alex Wilson, Bavana, BVR, Christian Grajewski, Computer Generated, Etienne Schmidt, George Luna, Harish Pavaskar, Troy Schiccoline, Just a Freakin', Chris Clemson, Ludger, Part 1 of 2, Quark Andang, Raiko, Render King, Alessandro Bonchio, Reshock, Rory H, Shamus Johnson, Terry Wayne Renson, Yassin Rupp, and Shibue Zhang. Holy moly, what a monster video. I didn't anticipate it would be that long when I started it. So if you by any chance anywhere around, thank you so very much for sticking with me that long. It's a real pleasure to have you around still. If you are, let's post a bottle emoticon in the comments down below. Thank you very much. As always, I hope you liked my content. I hope you learned something. And if you have any ideas for future videos, let me know down in the comments below. Now, without further ado, I say have a great week, have a good time, and happy modeling. Bye!